Hi everyone, it's your energy healer Zach Lewis. Today we're going to do an energy healing and frequency meditation on authentic confidence. So have you noticed that the collective consciousness is rearranging everything right now? As we step into this new shift in consciousness, we're literally shifting into new realities. So for example, you might notice that you've been getting a new identity, you might be moving into a new environment, you might have new relationships coming into your life, you might have a new love interest coming into your life, you might even be changing your dietary preferences. All this stuff is happening because the collective consciousness is changing the way that we do everything. So as we step into this new world, I wanted to help us step into our own authentic confidence so that while everything else on the outside is changing and rearranging around us, inside of us we feel very secure, we feel very confident, and we step into this new reality with an appropriate level of grandeur and grace. So what I'm going to do in today's energy healing is I'm going to scan everybody's blocks around expressing authentic confidence from within rather than trying to go find things on the outside to latch onto like money or relationships or mentors or whatever. Instead of using anything outside of us to validate our confidence, I'm going to help you start validating it internally so that no matter what's going on the outside, you are secure in and of yourself. And then what you do is you use that confidence and you embody it so strongly that all those external things, they still show up and you still have them, but you're not attached to them and you're not putting yourself underneath them. They're just another expression of the confidence that you are. So if you have any blocks to expressing that innate, authentic confidence that you are, that's what we're going to work on today. So just in case you're new to these pick a healings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up a bunch of numbers on the screen, and then you can go ahead and pick whichever number you're intuitively guided to, and that will correspond with the energy healing that is specific for you. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the numbers up on the screen right now, let you take your pick. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. But I'm going to assume that by now you've got your number picked. You can use the timestamps down below to fast forward to your healing. But if you want to hang out, I recommend staying for the grounding meditation. What the grounding meditation does is, one, it'll make your energy healing experience, it'll feel a lot more stable. And then two, it also makes it easier for me to read what are the patterns that are going on. If you're curious about how any of this stuff works, I got a podcast that explains all about this. But on these YouTube healings, I just want to focus on how you took your block on in the first place, helping you clear that, and then replacing it with a new pattern that's going to help you in this new reality. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. One last note is please make sure you're not driving when you listen to this, because although these look and sound and maybe even feel like a normal meditation, they're not the same, they're different. They can be super disorienting. Some people have told me that they feel like buzzing feelings or tingling or heat, any of those sensations. So please make sure you're not driving a car if you're listening to this. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the grounding meditation. If you're ready, go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold at the top of your breath. Release through the mouth. Pause for a second before you take your next inhale. And inhale through your nose. And exhale. And then go ahead and keep that rhythm going at your own pace. But on your next inhale, I recommend asking yourself the question, how do I connect to pure source even stronger? It's not my question, but it's a really good question. And then go ahead and bring your attention down to your feet. Let's actually envision a column going all the way down into the center of the earth. And just letting whatever we don't need anymore drain out of us. And then on our next inhale, inhaling up the patterns that are going on at the center of the earth, and then bringing that up into our bodies. So as you do that, I'm going to start generating frequencies. You probably already feel them. But go ahead and bring your attention to your feet. Noticing all the little details in your feet, the veins, your toes, toenails, ankles, heels. And then start bringing your attention up your legs, all the way up into the hips, groin area, into our lower torso. Working your way up through the intestines, starting to notice your spine. Up into the mid and upper torso now. Making sure that you're sitting straight. Or if you're standing straight, or if you're lying down straight. And now bringing our attention down our necks, into our backs, shoulders, down our arms, into our hands, into our palms. Really noticing the details in our palms, like all the little lines on our palms. And bringing our attention back up our neck. Noticing our throats. And up into the head. Wrapping down the front of our faces. Noticing our ears, eyebrows, eye sockets, eyeballs, our nose, mouth, lips, chin. Noticing our whole body from head to toe. Give me one more second. Just want to make sure everybody's feeling nice and grounded. You can also take advantage of noticing like all the other people that are going to be listening to this, because when we're all moving in the same direction, we have this collective momentum that you can harness for your benefit too. So just taking a minute to notice and acknowledge everybody else that's going to be listening to this. There you go. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, group 1, let's see what's going on for you. Okay, group 1, you were already kind of coming through earlier in this. So this is about changing the paradigm of how we generate confidence. So I spoke a little bit about this in the introduction, but basically what's going on with this group is, even though consciously you don't think this way anymore, there's still like this collective imprint of how confidence was generated. So the old way of doing confidence is basically look for things on the outside, create those things and make those things as stable as possible, and then use those as the basis for your confidence. So this is a little exaggerated for this group, but it's like things like, money, status, relationship, love, even strong family, any of those things. We use those as like, this is why I'm confident. But the problem is, it's like we have the confidence inside of us, but then we are pulling it out and then we're storing a little bit of it in these other places. And then what happens is, if something goes wrong with the other thing that we have externalized, then we lose like a little pieces of our confidence and we don't know how to get it back. So the metaphor that's coming through here is Google Docs, and that's like the new way of generating confidence. So the old way of generating confidence, so imagine you had like a report, and then you took your report and then you divided it. It was like 5 paragraphs, and then you took one paragraph and then you gave it to one person, you took another paragraph, you gave it to another person, another paragraph, you give it to another person. And then, you have 5 people in your group, and then each person has one of those paragraphs. So what happens is, let's say one of them forgets something, or they change it and they edit it. So then basically you lose all of that data. So that's what's happening with our confidence. So when we take things out of ourselves and we externalize it, and even if you know not to do this consciously, you still have like this cultural imprint on you. So that's why I'm reading it. So basically you have all these other external places where, it could be, money, it could be a savings account, it could be friends, it could be strong family, it could be physical, like whatever it is. It could be a car, whatever it is for you. It's like you're doing that thing with the document where you're just taking one paragraph and giving it to each of those things. Now, if any of those things gets corrupted, or the paragraph gets deleted or edited wrong or whatever, you can't go back. So then it's like you're just screwed. So the new way of generating confidence works like Google Docs. So you basically upload a document onto Google Docs, and then immediately it's available in all those other places. So it like re-renders itself in all 5 of those other people's Google Docs accounts. The original document that you uploaded, that is the source, and then automatically it updates everywhere. So what we want to do is we want to shift your confidence from you slicing off little pieces of it and then storing it outside of you, to you generating and continuously rendering it, and it being mirrored outside of you in all those other things. A lot of people get confused where they're like, I can't care about money, I can't want to have a car, I should detach from all my physical possessions. That's wrong as well. So the physical possessions, those are other manifestations of you. The problem happens when you store like 20% of your confidence in that thing. You need to own 100% of your confidence in and inside of you, and then you can have that 100% confidence be replicated through all the different external things. So like that internal confidence that you feel, like when you go and hang out with your family, you're not deriving your confidence from the people around you and from what they're saying. You are that confidence, and then it also shows up in that area of life. The same thing with your car. Like if you have that confidence, like it shows up in your car, it shows up in your job, shows up with your friends, it shows up wherever you are, because you're the one that's rendering it rather than you trying to store it outside of yourself. So I hope that makes sense. So let me talk about why you took this pattern on, what was like the original positive intent behind it. Because every single pattern that we take on, even if it's counterproductive now, it absolutely served us at an earlier time. And we have to acknowledge that. Otherwise, you'll never be able to change your patterns. Yeah, so this one, it's just like cultural. You just saw a bunch of other people doing it, so then you thought, okay, I guess that's how this works. So it kind of feels like diversification in investing. Like you reduce a bunch of your risk by storing it in all these different places. So you take the 100% and then you just put 5% here, 5% there, 5% there, 5% there. The thinking is like, oh, okay, well, if I lose some of it, then I'm not going to lose all of it. It's like that with your confidence. Yeah, you just saw a bunch of people doing it and you're like, well, I'll just do what they're doing. That seems smart. Yeah, and this is kind of like an older consciousness thing where one of the ways to get along in the old consciousness was by going and attaching to things and fitting in with the majority. Now, fitting in with the majority doesn't necessarily feel like the safest thing so much anymore. So back in the past, when the consciousness was different, that was the right move. That actually was smart. But now in the new consciousness, it doesn't allow for that. So it's kind of like before Google Docs was invented, before that was a thing, it made sense to just like split up your 100% and give a paragraph here, paragraph there, paragraph there, paragraph there. Like it made sense to do that because there wasn't the technology. So that's the same thing that's going on with the consciousness. Now that this consciousness is here, it's actually even more secure and a better idea, and it's even safer to do it this way. So you're just getting like an upgraded way of retaining your confidence. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I'm just going to start working on you and then clearing out the patterns that don't serve you and replacing them with new ones. I've talked a fair bit about what the new ones are. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, so just a note is after this energy healing, you're probably going to feel like you're imposing yourself a lot more, like you're barging into things a lot more. So just a heads up on that. You're not actually barging in, you're not inconveniencing anyone. Even if other people go through an adjustment period, like it's still a very, very good thing. It's like you're actually bringing your full self there. So yeah. Okay, let me go ahead and start working on you. So go ahead, take a deep breath in with me. Let go. Okay, I'm just going to work in silence. Noticing that a lot of people in this group, they also have some physical stuff going on, so I'm going to work on that really quick too. If it's helpful, you can imagine a bottle being shattered and then the pieces going everywhere, and then imagine putting that in reverse and then watching all the pieces come back together into the bottle so that the bottle is like perfect and unbroken. So just like imagine that happening to you. Okay. Last thing I wanted to add is you might notice that as you've reclaimed a lot of your confidence, another thing that's going to help you maintain that level of confidence is a sense of responsibility that you have, not to anyone else, but to yourself, and honoring that through like routine or structure or repeating things or whatever, like that will help you maintain your confidence. Because when you were outsourcing your confidence and storing it in like little packets outside of yourself, that did give you that sense of structure. So you want to make sure that you include that as you pull all this power back, because with the power comes responsibility, and structure will help the responsibility piece. You might already be feeling different. Let me know how it goes. I hope that you enjoyed this energy healing, and if you did, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing this with your friends. And I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye. All right, group 2, you're up. Let's see what's going on. So the block that I see here is, it's like you have some static coming through. So it's like the channel that's coming down into you, there's a little bit of interruption there. And then there's also from your mind to your throat, there's a little bit of interruption there. And then throat to like actually speaking out, there's a little bit of interruption there. So you have like all this different static, which is making it so that when you speak, it doesn't come out in the right way. It comes out a little bit off. And then actually after you say whatever you said, then it feels off to you. So even if you believe what you're saying, it sounds like you don't believe what you're saying, which actually makes you not believe what you're saying. So the thing that you're feeling intuitively is you could feel like, hey, something's off here, something's not right. And that's like that primal caveman subconscious awareness that you feel of like the confidence. It doesn't feel right. So you say this thing and then you can feel it and you're like, well, something about this is off. And then other people pick that up in you and they're like, huh, what's the deal here? So basically, if you get rid of that inference, whatever comes down into you and then out through you is going to be less distorted, it's going to be less interrupted, and it's going to be a pure representation of what it is that you're trying to put forward. Okay, that feels like a relief for a lot of us. Just pay attention to your heart area during this. Let me see if I can give you a little more details on that. So this is a childhood thing. This is like if our parents were a little cut off from source, like everything that was coming through them, even though it was like mixed with the most love ever. I was watching this comedian who was talking about love and how much he loves his child. And he was like, if my child killed me, like he murdered me, I would be worried that he would get caught and I would want to help him. So it's like, that's the immensity of love. So even if you didn't necessarily receive that as much as a child, or there's a lot of things in the way of that love, just know that that layer of love is like every parent's desire to funnel that love into you. Sometimes there's stuff that gets in the way of that. You know, we have our own traumas and We have our own level of awareness, but like just know that that undercurrent of love was trying to make it to you this whole time. But what you were picking up was the little things that were off, the little traumas or the little wounds or the energy blocks or whatever that was interrupting that flow. So even though you were accepting love, it just felt like a little bit off too. And then you just kind of copied that pattern and replicated it. There's a little different piece on the speaking. Let me see if I can find out more there. This is weird, but it's like you don't want to appear smart. Okay, so this is it's a generational block. By appearing too smart, you become like unlikable and you kind of get booted out of the herd. It's like the tall poppy syndrome. Like if everyone's here and then you're up here, you get chopped down. So this is like an older thing. But even if you don't feel like that necessarily comes from this lifetime, it probably came from the past. And it's kind of like more of a generational thing. Yeah, you just don't want to appear too smart because you don't like make yourself a target. Apparently I have this pattern too. The reason that you had this pattern is because people were like really, really aggressive not too many generations back. Yeah, the world was a different place. Yeah, it was just a survival strategy. And like that made sense, especially when people were flying across the world to shoot each other. Probably a good idea for you not to be picked out. So yeah, this pattern could come from your parents, your parents', your ancestors. It could come from somewhere like all the way up the line. But yeah, that's what I'm going to help you let go of. So I'm just going to go ahead and start working on you now. So just keep your attention on your throat area, from like throat to the bottom of your chin. I'm also going to work on physical things because I feel like that might be going on for this group as well. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Okay. If you want, you can just keep hanging out in a meditative state, and then it'll still feel like I'm working on you. All right, that's going to do it. So if you enjoyed this, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing this with your friends. And I'll see you guys next time. Later. All right, group 3, let's see what's going on. Okay, so with this group, naturally on your own, you stand strong. But when you get around other people that aren't able to stand as strong as you on their own, you kind of accommodate them, so you act as like a rest stop for them, where they can they don't pile their stuff onto you. You kind of invite them in. It's like you absorb their patterns and then you start running a less confident pattern. It's like you're trying to do their work for them. So this is just a pattern where you absorb other people's stuff. You basically absorb other people's fears, you absorb other people's insecurities, you absorb other people's concerns. You've used this absorbing pattern to become very talented at a lot of different things. It's like the most efficient way for you to learn something is you just kind of copy and paste what their core competency is into you. But then it kind of backfires on you when you go to be confident. This new shift in consciousness, the confidence has to come from you out. But what you're doing is you're fine on your own, but then when someone else comes around, it's kind of like you look at their paper and you're like, oh, how are you doing that? And then you copy that pattern, so then you bring that into you. So as you do that, you copy everyone's insecurities and fears and all those kinds of things into you. And then the confidence that you used to have, it's gone because you literally absorb the other person's patterns. And then they start running inside of you. This is why you're always trying to pull things off of you, trying to push things away. And it's like, you might be popular. It's not exactly for the best reason, but you might be popular because a lot of people like being able to go and latch onto you, and they like being able to rest into you. It gives them a way to take their fear pattern and then they get to place it outside of them. This is kind of like one of the other groups I was talking about, but it's flipped around the other way. So other people, they take their patterns, they put it on you, and that gives them a break, and they're like, oh, okay, that's so nice that I don't have to hold this, and you've absorbed it. So the reason that you do this is because in the past, that was the best way to learn, and that's what's led to you being a very talented person. You got really good at copying other people's files, basically. I don't know if you've ever had like an external hard drive, but the point of that is you plug it into your computer and then it copies and duplicates all the files. You're basically operating like an external hard drive, and you just plug into every other computer around you. So then they offload a bunch of their files. Some of them are good, some of them are not. But then what happens is the storage on the external hard drive, it runs out of storage. Like, you're your own computer and they're their own computers, but every time you are around another one, basically you download all their files, you back up all their files, and you sort through it and you find the ones that are useful, but you're also absorbing everybody else's, fears, traumas, limitations, limiting beliefs, and those kinds of things. So that's basically what you're doing. So this is why after you hang out with people, it feels heavy. They have burdens, and then you take them on, and then now you have burdens, and then you could feel the heaviness of the patterns that they haven't worked through. So that pattern worked when you were younger. That pattern worked before you knew everything that you know now, but now it's getting in the way of you being confident, because a big thing with confidence, it's just you being yourself fully. It's you being yourself and expanding that out. They talk about this with, what's his name? Steve Jobs. They said that he had a reality distortion field. So if you went into his space, all of reality would change, and he was just so strong in how he thought things were going to be that immediately you started viewing things in the same way. So that's basically a really good template for how you want to be strong. Now, you don't have to like Steve Jobs, you don't have to want to be like Steve Jobs, but that template of confidence is a really, really good one. So when somebody comes into your world, they are literally entering your world, not just they're going and offloading the baggage that they don't want onto you, and then you have to deal with it. The only reason they can offload it is because you are willing to absorb. You're like a sponge for other people's stuff, good and bad. So one of the ways that you felt very confident was because you had the belief, they need me. So as long as they need you, you are willing to absorb them into you. But then if that's the pattern that you're running, they always need you. You always have to absorb their stuff and you can never just be yourself. I'm going to put an end to that pattern of you just absorbing things so that you can feel needed. So you need to feel confident through a different way than just being needed by people or being told that you're needed by people. So at the higher levels, higher things, higher beings, higher whatever, they don't need you. And that might sound cold or harsh, but they don't need you. And that's one of the reasons why you can trust them. You could probably see this really clearly in a relationship. You know, if you have one person that's like really confident in the relationship and you have another person that's really codependent and needy and it's like, I need you. That doesn't feel so good to this person. And, you know, depending on how needy this person is and how much this person needs to have a needy person around them, there is no free will in that. That's just like a codependent person using the other person, and the other person's allowing themselves to be used by the other person. So you're not even getting the real version of them. So this is why like codependence is such an issue. So it's like you are depending on needy people to make you feel confident. And the mechanism that you use to make all that happen is absorbing their stuff. You need like a new foundation for your confidence because being needed has been the one that has worked the most for you. So this is why you're around needy coworkers, needy friends, needy family members, needy whatever. You are the one that has the sign on your head that says like, hey, looking for needy people because it makes me feel confident. All of this may be happening outside of your conscious awareness, so don't blame yourself. Don't beat yourself up about this. It's fine. Like we all have patterns and you know, a lot of times we're just taking them on without even realizing. A lot of these patterns are decided before we're 6 years old. A lot of them were decided before we're 3 years old. So you have like a 3-year-old or 6-year-old version of you making permanent decisions about what your patterns are going to be unless you go back and edit them. So if you look at like true spiritual leaders or true teachers or true business people, the ones that are worth trusting are the ones that don't ask you to trust them. They're the ones that don't need anything from you, that don't want anything from you. They're just them being themselves. That was a long-winded answer, but now I'm going to help you just shift it. All right, go ahead, take a deep breath in through your nose if you're ready. Hold. Release. Just a heads up, this is going to force you to find a new way of generating your confidence rather than leaning on needy people to create that validation for you. Like you're going to have to create it yourself. It may take you a little bit of time to relearn how to generate your own confidence, but it's way better for you in the long run. All right, so that's going to do it for this group. Exercise is probably going to be really helpful for you. What exercise is going to teach you is basically how you generate your own confidence by you taking care of yourself. Like if you try to do it for other people, it's not going to work as well. But if you're doing it for yourself, like you'll click in and you'll feel like, whoa, this is good. This feels better in my body. I like this. It's just going to be this organic thing that you start seeing how you can generate this confidence internally. So anyway, I'll let you go ahead and enjoy how this whole pattern plays out. Please feel free to let me know how it's going in the comments. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And I will see you next time. Thanks so much for being here. Bye.